he's sort of won the public over in this Benn fight, in my opinion, the last fight, more than he ever has. He's probably got more fans now than he ever has.
Took me a minute to get used to Chris. You know, he's kind of unique. He's one of the only fighters I ever seen come in and he's ready right away.
Why has he brought you back?
You know, that's a good question. And the only thing I could think of is because probably I'm the best.
What do you like about Conor? When you're looking at Conor as a fighter?
You know, that's funny because, man, you asked me that question. I really don't know him. I've probably seen him fight one time, and I just heard in the media that he's failed 2-3 drug tests, and that was it. That takes balls, man, to get in there with a guy like Chris. That's like Terence fighting Canelo. That takes balls. But after the fight was over, and then you sit back and you watch the fight, yes, it was easy.
Welcome to episode 139 of Talk Boxing with Simon Jordan and Spencer Oliver. Joining us today is the former super middleweight title contender Paul Smith and the renowned and now historic trainer Bomac McIntyre. Nice to see you, Brian. Thanks for joining us for the first time.
Thank you for
Congratulations on a fabulous outcome with Terence the other day. We'll get into that a bit later on. But let's start with the press conference that went on last week with Eubank Jr and Conor Benn. You were there, Spence. What were your predominant takeaways from the experience?
Well, I think that Conor Benn was very emotional, that was for sure, and I think that was...
In a subdued way?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because of Ricky Hatton?
Because of Ricky Hatton.
Yeah.
I think he turned up, you know, you could clearly see that. He wasn't very vocal at all, and I thought that Chris Eubank Jr, as always, dominated the press conference. You know, he turned up with a
Did you think
plan,
that?
And
did
I thought
you
it was...
think that?
Yeah, I did. I thought he was good. I thought he led it. I thought that he knew exactly what he was doing. Look, he's genius at these things, press conferences, and I think that Eddie Hearn, speaking to Eddie Hearn before that, actually, Eddie knew that he wasn't going to get a word in. He said that before. He said, I don't even know why I've turned up. Yeah, did he? Because I think that Chris sort of shut him back down, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, the reasons why we talk about these press conferences, Brian, the way that we do is because one of the big spectacles for me is the Benn Eubank press conference rather than the fight itself. So that's the reasons why we're talking about what happened in a press conference, because the first set of press conferences with Chris, he just dominated it. You know, he dominated the promoters, he dominated Conor Benn because he was more articulate, he was more pointed, he was more succinct, he was Chris Eubank Jr. So that's the reasons why we spend a little bit of time talking about the press conference. We'll get into the fight in a second. Did you think, I mean, I thought Conor came across quite well. I thought the idea of the line about you can't polish a turd, and I thought the relaxed nature of Conor's presentation during it was very different from the first press conferences. Paul, did you get the impression that Chris Eubank was controlling the space and the order of events in that press conference?
The thing with Chris Eubank is he always does, and he always finds a way. He's very well spoken. He's not as stupid as he would probably have you think he is, and he has a way of speaking. Chris
is not stupid in the slightest, is he?
That's what I mean. I think he's very intelligent and articulate, and he gets it across in there. And what you notice with Chris Eubank, or what I certainly noticed, the last few years you've grown to really like him, and I've been against him twice with my brother in the opposite corner, and obviously I didn't want to like him much then, and sometimes he said a couple of things which obviously went below the belt, as do other fighters in press conferences, but he's sort of won the public over in this Benn fight, in my opinion, the last fight, more than he ever has. He's probably got more fans now than he ever has for him as a person as well as a fighter. Yeah,
I mean, because nostalgia sells, and because obviously the big thing with his father and all that went on prior to that. And I thought that he conducted himself fabulously in the first set of press conferences, specifically when he took it into the territory of, don't talk to me about pain. I'll tell you what pain is like. Pain is like not having a relationship with your father and losing your brother. That's what pain looks like. So I thought he was so clever there. What's it like, Brian? What do you want me to call you, Bomac or Brian? What do you prefer?
Bomac.
Bomac, OK. Bomac, what's it like working with Eubank Jr, both in training and in the media?
Well, working with Chris, to me, it's a joy to work with, you know, a top fighter from over here, from England, and it's to add love to it. You know, his father being who he is, a legend. But it took me a minute to get used to Chris. You know, he's kind of unique in himself.
Which one, senior or junior?
Junior.
Right.
You know,
in what way?
He doesn't talk much. He really doesn't.
He doesn't talk much.
He doesn't talk much in camp. He comes in. He's one of the only fighters I ever seen come in, and he's ready right away.
Okay.
He'll get straight to work. You know, so as a trainer, you got to watch him and say, "You ready?" Ask him, "Is he ready?" Or because you know most fighters come in, what they do, they mess around a little bit, try to get the music together. You don't want to talk to the other fighters, but Chris is one of those guys to come in, get straight to work, and then once he get done, he complete his work, he'll go.
Because there was a perception, and I think I'm right in this, that he didn't take direction the way that other fighters. I watched you the other day with Terence Crawford, and I thought that was a perfect example of how a corner should be coordinated in terms of the control that you had in that corner. You went to your assistant when you felt there was a necessity to ask him if he wanted to say anything, but there was complete and utter focus. A bit completely different to the Daniel Dubois corner and perhaps a Tyson Fury corner. There's a perception with Chris in the past that he is captain of his own ship and doesn't potentially listen to trainers. Is there any validity in that?
No, we don't. I don't get that from Chris, man. Right. You know, before any fighter that I work with, I set them down and tell them what I expect out of them, and that's the first thing we did when we first had the first fight together. And he went right along with it, and we just picked up where we left off at this time.
What's his work ethic like in the gym? Because you work with some top fighters, and you know, like you say, he doesn't really say too much. But what is his work ethic like?
Once he gets in the gym, man, he works like, you know, like he's a world champion. You know, like he got the title, and somebody's trying to take it from him. So he works hard, you know, and he's quiet about it.
He came to the gym sparring with us long before Liam fought him. He came up to the gym in Bolton, in Joe Gallagher's gym, and we were sparring, me and Liam. And I got to know him, meet him, and I don't think he said more than 5 words in the whole 5 days that he was in the gym. As Bo's just said, he comes to the gym, he just got changed, got his gear on, got in, did the sparring. His dad was there as well. Finished the sparring in the dressing room, quick change, and he's home. Like we're all standing in the showers having conversations. He's just very quiet, but he works really hard. He does.
Why has he brought you back? Why are you back with him?
You know, that's a good question. And the only thing I could think of is because probably I'm the best.
Sure.
And we had a great camp, and we had a great fight the last fight that we was together. And
Liam.
Yeah, Liam against Liam. And everything went smooth. During camp, outside the gym, inside the gym, everything went smooth.
What did you think of the first fight? Because it kind of sends out a message, Bomac, that Chris, I mean, there's a lot of people that have a view on the first fights. I don't think there's any doubt that Chris Eubank won the fight, but I think that a lot of people were pretty taken with Conor Benn's performance. By bringing you back, it almost tells you that Chris Eubank feels he needs to effect a change. What did you think of the first fights?
Well, I will tell you this, man. We tried to make it happen the first fight, but the timing was wrong.
Right. So he wanted you back for that anyway?
He wanted me back for the next couple fights, but the timing was wrong because I was working with Keyshawn Davis. He was getting ready for a world title fight. Other fighters that was in the gym that I had obligations to. So, you know, I hate that I missed out on that. You know, part of history.
Does that mean you're now with him for long term?
I'm sure I am.
Yeah.
I'm sure I am. We've got a really, really great relationship. Not just only with me. We got the other 2 trainers. You got Red Spikes, you got Saul Dieguez. You know, they play a big part into training him too.
Tactically, would you have changed what he done in the first fight? The way that he fought?
Yeah, I would have.
Yeah.
I would have.
You would have approached it different?
I would have approached it a little bit different. But, you know, just
in what way?
I can't tell you that.
Because he's going to do it this time around?
We might.
Yeah. You know? Okay. Is he a world... I know he's a world level fighter, Chris Eubank, because he's fought at that level, but every time he has fought at that level, he's lost. Is he a world level winning fighter? Because I've had this issue with Chris Eubank Jr over the years. Because of their personalities, obviously they're very, very strong, both him and his father, and they divide opinion, and I think that's a good thing to do. But I've listened to over the years how much money Chris has made and how much money he's done this and what his Las Vegas mansion looks like that. But whenever there's an opportunity to fight for a world title, he doesn't seem to have taken it. When he has stepped up, and I know there were marginal losses against Billy Joe Saunders, but it was a loss, and George Groves was just too big and too strong for him. Do you see, you know, beyond this carnival, which I think these fights are, I think these are money fights being traded off the back of their father's legacy, do you see him taking a world title shot, and do you see him being a world champion? I know the stock answer is going to be yeah, but I'm trying to look into your eyes and get a real answer.
You know, I told him the other day, maybe it was yesterday or the day before, I said, man, once you get past this fight and you dominate this fight, they can't deny you fighting for a world title, you know. At 160, I believe he can be a world champion.
At 160?
At 160, I believe he can be a world champion.
We'll talk about the rehydration because that's another bugbear of mine a little bit later on in the conversation. But let's have a look at the exchange, go back to the press conference, have a look at the exchange between Eubank, Eddie Hearn, and also a response from Robert Smith from the British Boxing Board of Control.
Scumbags blocked that ambulance from leaving the stadium for 20 minutes. If this was a serious injury that I had sustained, that 20 minutes of being
Chris, I want to know who wouldn't open the gates. It's important.
That 20 minutes...
You can't answer that, can you?
...could have been the difference between life and death.
Go on, say it.
Why was I in an ambulance for 20 minutes?
Say that Matchroom stops you from going to the hospital.
Why was I... What, so you can try and sue me with your little lawyer?
Not at all, don't worry about that. Okay. I think you're talking about the wrong guy.
Stop interrupting me. You're not even supposed to be up here.
Say it. All I was going to do was say a few words about Ricky
I don't want to hear any of your few
okay.
words.
Okay, I won't say anything about...
Let's move on with the press conference.
You're
I don't want to hear from you.
You get what's
I'm going to speak over you for as long as it takes.
You can do that.
You're just another scumbag in this...
Oh, wow, you're calling the chairman of the British Boxing Board of Control
underhanded industry we find ourselves in.
The mask is slipping, Christopher.
Obviously, I can't say too much about Chris Eubank, as we have taken legal advice. But it is disappointing that anybody would say that any member of the board or myself would do anything detrimental to a boxer's health. And to say that somebody deliberately stopped an ambulance from leaving a venue is quite unbelievable.
I want to put this specifically to you, Spence and Paul, about that, because I have listened to the narrative. I know the narrative of the first fight was do what you do, right? That's in my view. I don't know what your two views are.
The stopping the ambulance thing, yeah. I mean, look, I had a car parked just outside and it took me 2 hours to get out. It was mayhem around there. So the ambulance was obviously... It would have been very difficult for it to leave. You know, I know Chris has accused the Boxing Board of Control of slowing things up. I don't think there was. But listen, there was a lot of truth Chris was speaking in that press conference as well. But as far as the ambulance...
that particular part,
no, I believe so.
You got a view on that, Paul?
Yeah, and it's where I want to add it. Now, us Scousers are a bit smart. I left just before the 12th round started, the last round started the fight. Yeah. And I picked my brother Stephen up and we got out. Yeah. And we literally just got out because the last time we were there when Callum was fighting on the Usyk and Joshua undercard, we got stuck there for 2 hours. It's renowned for it, that ground. It's not really set up in a way just yet. You know the area around it.
You missed the last round, by the way, mate.
Yeah, 100% missed it. I was watching it on the phone as we were sitting in the car around the corner, just away from the traffic. He's ruined what are very valid points, Eubank, by criticising anyone trying to keep him at the ambulance. That's absolutely nonsense. But he has got very valid points when he speaks about the Boxing Board of Control, about where the money goes from the fines, about where the money goes in general. Right. I've never seen an ex-boxer being helped, and that's what they say, it goes towards ex-boxers. I would like to see a lot more transparency from the Boxing Board of Control, and whatever he said, he's going to get in trouble for it because the boards have got KCs on as the stewards. They've got the best legal advice in the country to hand for them, and they will come
But the
down
idea, I understand what you're saying. I know
he's ruined a few good points with a lot of bad stuff.
I mean, the idea that Eddie and anybody was responsible for suppressing an ambulance is getting out there, it was nonsense. Someone who wasn't at the press conference is Chris Eubank Sr. I'm sure we will hear more from him later on, but let's listen to Chris Eubank Jr. talking about him.
Well, I was with him yesterday on my birthday for the first time in 6 years. We had a great day. He doesn't want me to fight. I don't think he wants me to fight in general, not just this particular rematch. I think he thinks that at 36 years old, I should be moving on to different things in this stage of my life. But that is a father worrying about his son. And, you know, he doesn't see the things I'm doing on a day-to-day basis in the gym. You know, I'm still capable. I'm still hungry. I'm still loving dedicating my life to the sport. So retirement is not in my eye line right now. He will be at the fight for this fight. And I would imagine that he will be, I don't know, he was publicly against me fighting in the last fight. I don't see that happening again for this fight.
Now, I spoke to Chris Eubank Sr. on a number of occasions prior to the build-up of the fights, when the first fight was postponed because of the circumstances surrounding Conor Benn, and he was against it. He was very vociferous and very vitriolic about all the people that appeared to have worked with his son, accusing them of the worst kind of things, and also talking about the level of competency that they've exhibited. Now, I'm not suggesting he's brought you into that equation, but he's going to be visible over your shoulder potentially. How does that feel for you?
It doesn't bother me, not one bit. I'm there to get his son better, so I'm sure he's probably gonna agree with me on some of the things, and probably not on some other things. But hey, my focus is Chris.
We touched upon very briefly, and we'll pick up after this little bit of VT that we've got from Ben Shalom, talking about the rehydration clause side of things. Let's listen to Ben Shalom, Chris's promoter, talk about it first.
We aren't happy with the rehydration clause. Chris isn't committed to that rehydration clause again, as of yet. Okay. And the initial time it was put in front of us, it was an ultimatum. It was, the fight's not happening unless this. So Chris is in a difficult position then. Everything's been agreed. Everything. You're talking, we've gone through the contract, we've done every single clause. We get to the last moment. I think it was, if I remember, maybe just before the press conference or something, and then it was landed on us, an ultimatum like that. In the end, Chris is a money man and he accepted the challenge. Is it healthy? Is it right? Is it absolutely, should it be banned from boxing? Absolutely. Did Terence Crawford need a rehydration clause against Canelo? No, he didn't. And so I don't think it should not be used in this fight. Absolutely not. And people could say, oh, well, he missed the 160. He missed the 160 because of what was going on. And it was nothing to do with the weight, right? He missed it by half an ounce because of the timings and everything and the commotion that was going on in that weigh-in. And then he was given like 4 minutes to and it was one of the most ridiculous scenes I've had in boxing. The rehydration clause is what is a problem. And that is what should be not happening in this fight.
I've sort of laboured this point on a number of occasions, Bomac. My understanding of the rehydration clause is that Chris gets paid £1 million bonus by being inside it. Isn't it a simple exercise where, wave the £1 million, be healthy?
Well, I'll tell you this, if you lose the weight the proper way that you're supposed to lose it in a matter of time while you're in camp and rehydrating yourself the proper way after you weigh in, you should be all right. So
why are they making a fight play out of the rehydration clause then?
You know what? That's just funny to me. Only thing I could think of is the other guy is scared. You don't want the other fighter to come in there too heavy or have a size advantage. So
the rehydration clause is £10 as opposed to other governing bodies when they have the £12 rehydration clause, but it's £10, isn't it?
I believe so. I'm not sure as far as, what's in the contract with Chris and...
But Paul, it is a bit... I've got all the admiration in the world for Chris and I've developed a much more affection for him over the years. But sorry, I keep using the same expression, but it is because ultimately, if you're so worried about your health and you needed to go out of after the fight into hospital and all the toenail crap that we had to listen to and all that sort of stuff, then just wave the £1 million bonus. You're getting paid enough for the fight and look after your health. Isn't that the other side of the argument?
The other side of the argument is when you sign for this fight, the rematch is already pretty much agreed. If the fight goes this way, the rematch will be this. If the fight goes this way, the rematch will be that. And that's how it is. So you've, as Eddie said, Eddie Hearn's been vocal and saying, well, you've already signed the contract for it. That's how rematches work most of the time. So it's in there. There's no point now in trying to change it, especially when you won. If you lost, maybe there's an argument for it for the rematch, but because you won, it's just one of them where you have to get on with it. Now, on the rehydration limit weigh-in last time, he was fine. Yeah. It was the one before the fight which he wasn't, and that was probably just a timing error. Yeah. I think as Bomac said, you'll get it right this time, and the rehydration clause won't be an issue, in my opinion.
And my understanding is the contract is exactly the same as the first one anyway, so it shouldn't matter anyway.
We all know that Chris Eubank Sr is a riddle wrapped up in a rhyme and a character, and it's got some brilliant views and some strange ones in equal measure. Right? Are you looking forward to seeing him back in the mix this time round? Because obviously a lot of the noise was, and I thought it was very poignant and wicked that Conor Benn was able to say to him at a press conference, your old man don't even like you. All of that is now aside. Are you wanting to see Senior right in the mix, right next to Bomac, with all that goes there?
Absolutely. However well Chris disguised it last time, the emotions would have been there for sure with what was going on in the background with the old man, etc. And that's not good for a fighter when you're going into a fight. You know, it's all about mindset. And I think you've got to be totally focused. And that would have been a distraction. So I think going into this one, Chris will be in a happier place. And I think that will make it easier for him to train. It'll be more focused. And I think that will be much more beneficial.
Yeah, I was a few rows back watching the fight last time. My brother was on the undercard, and then we sat down and watched it. The minute I saw that screen and seeing it turns up, I got goosebumps on my arms. And I said to my missus and my lads who were there, I hope he plays Simply the Best come to ring, because I'm there for the nostalgia. Yeah. And a lot of people that were there that night are there for the nostalgia. In the rematch, they will be there because it was a good fight also. It was a very entertaining fight. It was a competitive fight, which I didn't think it would be too competitive at the start. I thought Eubank would have been too big and too strong and had it all his own way, to be honest with you. But Ben surprised me on the night. It was a great fight, and I know you're pretty much against it, but I probably will be tuning in for the next one. But there's still that hint of nostalgia there, so having a dad there is good.
Bomac, I'm going to take you to Terence Crawford a little bit later on in the show, but I'm going to ask you about Chris Eubank. In your mind, your expected win against Conor Benn. Do you see him getting in against Saul Alvarez? And if he did, do you see him beating him?
Now say that again.
Do you see, once the job in hand with Conor is dealt with, which I'm assuming you think will be a victory for yourselves, obviously otherwise you wouldn't be here, do you see the opportunity manifesting itself for Chris Eubank to go in with Saul Alvarez? And if he does, Canelo Alvarez, do you see him beating him?
Man, I hope, I got my fingers crossed that after he beat Ben, Saul will call him out.
Is that the direction that you would advocate for your fighter?
I definitely will.
Right.
I mean, Terence is obviously the 168 king now, but will he be staying there? And if he doesn't stay there, then them titles will fragment and one of them will become vacant, and that would open a door for Chris, wouldn't it?
Well, right now, Terence is just taking a break, man.
Yeah.
You know, spending time with his family. Got a lot of things coming up. So once he get back in the gym, we'll sit down and talk about his next move.
Well, the reason why I say Alvarez is because I can't put you in a conversation where he's fighting Terence Crawford, can I? Because you wouldn't be representing Chris Eubank Jr. You'd be looking after Terence Crawford. That's why I brought Saul Alvarez into the equation, and that's why I asked you about him rather than the incumbent champion, which is obviously Terence Crawford.
Well, you said it best.
Thank you very much. Right, we'll have a break. Let's turn our attention to Conor. And I know I touched upon it earlier on in the show and the press conference and how he performed in it. There's always this perception that because Chris is so articulate and clever and cunning and manipulative and strong and does to people that most people can't do, shuts up Eddie Hearn, puts people in their place. I thought Conor came across very well in that press conference. I thought he was very calm. I thought he was very lucid. I mean, obviously, it might have been a little bit disconcerting to find out that his father wanted to get in a shower with him, but he corrected that pretty quick.
Yeah.
I thought we did well. I thought he was very measured, very calm, different Conor.
Well, I thought, and I think that was because he was emotional, Simon, if I'm totally honest. I think that in light of what just happened, it subdued him with what happened with Ricky Hatton. You know, he come in with a Man City shirt on. You could see the kid was visibly emotional. And that's why he wasn't speaking so much. You know, him and Ricky Hatton, like, Ricky took him under his wing. He mentored him when he come over as a young kid. Yeah. So you could clearly see the effects of that. And that was probably why he was as quiet as he was.
Do you think he'll continue? I mean, I know that we're talking about the tragedy of Ricky Hatton, but there was a coherency to Conor. He was calm and measured, and obviously a big part of that may well have been subdued circumstances. Do you think that will be his way of going forward? Because he's been in the ring with Chris Eubank. You know, he knows what he's about now. And he is right. I think Conor, can take a lot of Chris's power in the first fight. So there's not that idea in people's minds that Conor can't stand in the ring and trade with Chris Eubank, albeit that Bomac will say it'll be a different Chris Eubank this time round. Do you think he'll continue along that vein? Or do you think you'll see the excitable Conor again?
I think he should, because he lost. And there's no shame in that. It was a hell of a fight, as I said, but when you lose a fight and you go into the rematch, you can't be the one standing shouting the odds or, you lost. And I saw Chris, I don't watch many press conferences, and as you just mentioned, I'd probably rather get a shout with me dad than watch some of them, because some of them are pretty boring. But this one, I watched the replays, I watched the highlights, I've seen what he was saying, and Chris openly says in it, you lost, you do know that you lost, and I don't understand the victory tour. The kid's just had a night of his life in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, being paid the biggest payday of his life. You can expect him to enjoy himself a little bit, but you would be more subdued if you lost the first fight, and you would be the quieter fighter. And I think this will suit Conor Benn to help him in his preparations because he's the underdog, he's the smaller man, let's say, and he lost the first fight, so he has a lot to prove in his fight, but he's relatively younger and less miles on the clock than Chris Eubank.
I mean, I'm not surprised Chris said that about Victory Tour because it's another way to get a dig in, and I think it's a clever dig.
Yeah.
Eubank Sr wasn't at the press conference, but Nigel Benn was. Let's have a listen to Nigel talking about his son.
That was Conor at his worst. He was winging punches in, throwing them left, right, not even thinking about what he was doing. Everything that we practiced for the 12 weeks of training, he didn't do one thing. Absolutely one thing. And he had him hurt so many times, but yet he kept on showing all the punches that he was going to throw. And I thought to myself, mate, that weren't even a real Conor. But I'm glad that he done 12 rounds with a middleweight. And the funny thing about it, we all keep saying that, we made him struggling with the weight, but Chris is IBO middleweight champion. He fights at 160 all the time, the last 4 fights.
Pick the bones out of that, Paul. I mean, he's talking about that everything that they wanted him to do, he didn't execute, and this time round it'll be different. What did you make of that?
I absolutely loved Nigel Benn growing up.
Me too. Me too.
And it's difficult to say anything against him because of who he is and what he was and what he meant to me as a kid. But that, to me, as a dad, trying to sort of smooth it over for his son to try and take a little bit of attention off and a little bit of heat off him. But I disagree with what he said in the fact that was Conor at his worst. I thought Conor had a really good fight. I thought he did really well in the fight. He did better than I expected him to do. And he hurt Eubank, which I didn't think he could do.
He did, but listen, that was Chris at his worst because he missed the weight. And when you miss the weight, as you know, we've all done it, you miss the weight, and as the rounds go on, you're dehydrated. When you take the shots he was taking early on in the fight, when you see Chris getting wobbled a couple of times, that's because he's dehydrated. Your punch resistance has gone. If he gets the weight right, he's the one that's going to come in stronger. That's the thing. If Conor approaches the fight the same and takes it thinking, I can go into this guy, I can hurt him, I've got it, and Chris comes in a different animal because he's got the weight right, that could spell disaster.
As Bomac just said before, and it's a fact, it's proven. If you struggle with the weight, it will take away from your punch resistance.
It does.
If you struggle with the weight bad and you get caught on the chin, you'll feel the shots a lot more. And if Bomac's right in what he's saying, that Chris will do the weight properly this time, then it's a different fight.
Absolutely.
But do you think that Conor will set himself up differently? Do you think it's a case of Conor approaching the fight and doing a different thing or doing the same things but better?
I think he has to. I think the one saving grace, and again, I'm sure Bomac will disagree sitting next to me. The one saving grace is he knows he can hurt him. Yep. Now, again, if he gets the weight right, that might be a different story. But he knows that he can hurt him. Whereas when he was going into this fight, he was probably assuming or more or less hoping that he could hurt him. But he can land, he can find the target. It's up to Eubank to not let him find that target and then do more of what he does best. I think Eubank, as I've said this all along, and I'm not disrespecting him saying this, I don't think he's a better boxer than he is a fighter. He can really fight and he can really work inside. And he's a handful when he's got his head on your chest and he's in the pocket. Boxing-wise, I think that's where Conor will have the better chance of landing from a distance. But up close and personal, I think it's Eubank's all day.
Yeah, I think Conor has to approach the fight pretty much the same. He's got to take it straight to Chris. He's got to try and get on his chest because that's where he was getting success last time. Chris, for me, I think he's more effective on the outside. When boxing Conor, I think if he works behind that jab more, he's much more effective. But it's in the DNA. It's like his old man, like you say.
His jab's brilliant.
His jab is brilliant, but he's tough, man, and he can tough it out. And that's where he kicks on. He boxes early, kicks on late, and I think that's where he gets success.
It's a strange question for me to ask you, but I'm going to ask it anyway, Bomac. Is there any way you can see that Conor Benn beats your guy?
No, I can't, for the simple fact that it's hard to beat the guy that already didn't beat you. I mean, I can see that Chris is beating him at everything: the press conference, the stare downs, the fight. To me, he got his number, and I think he's going to be in a better position coming into this next fight because Chris knows what to expect out of Ben.
Well, mate, talk to us a little bit about that. So, it really starts now. The fight starts now because it's all about the psychological approach and the mental approach and getting inside and recognising the buttons you got to press, etc., etc. Chris is a master at that, and he knows how to press the buttons with Conor, right? But it all starts right now. Yeah,
it does. It starts as soon as when they start negotiating. It starts in the back and forth, social media, press conferences, stare downs. It all starts there.
Conor's wiser now, though, isn't he? I mean, we've gone past the idea of Chris being able to call him a drug cheat forever and a day. That's all moved on now. That situation has been and gone. So it'll be interesting to see what the narrative is. What do you like about Conor? When you're looking at Conor as a fighter, what do you like about what he does that you will be saying to Chris to look out for?
You know, that's funny because, man, you asked me that question, and I really don't know him. I've probably seen him fight one time, and I just heard in the media that he's failed 2-3 drug tests, and that was it. You know, I never really paid no attention to him because he's over here, and I'm over there.
But you will be now.
Yeah,
you'll have seen the first fight.
I've seen the first fight, and he's a tough dude. That dude is tough. Moving up from, what is he, like 47? Yeah, 47 to coming up to 60. Chris is a big 160. And if Chris rehydrate right, he'll come in even bigger. So that takes balls, man, to get in there with a guy like Chris. That's like Terence fighting Canelo. That takes balls.
Absolutely.
That's 2-3 weight classes, man. Damn.
But we ain't going to draw comparisons between Conor Benn and Terence Crawford, though, with due respect. All right. If Conor wins this, if he were to win this rematch, there's an argument suggesting, I mean, we had Lewis Crocker on the show the other day, who's just won the IBF welterweight, and there's an opportunity, perhaps, rather than have a trilogy, to fight Lewis Crocker for the world title. Let's have a listen to what Lewis was saying, who was very excited about his win.
I was like, never give up on the dream. Like, no matter, like, I was working for Vodafone, like, about 5 years ago, you know, like, while boxing as well, because, like, you need to put money, you need to get money and stuff, so it's just, that was the thing, always never give up on the dream, and I'm glad I paid off.
I was speaking to somebody last night that you know well, and he was saying Conor Benn, he'd love Conor Benn. Would you?
Yeah, for sure. You know, I think domestically, that's the biggest fight you can make. I never had any bargaining chip to get that fight, but now I'm a world champion now, so we're both a matchroom, both are two exciting fighters, and I think it's a great fight to make.
Love him. I mean, it was a pleasure to be in the studio with him last week because he was so. I read out your text as well about your thoughts on him as well. He was so excited. If Conor, I know I'm not going to ask Bomac this question. If Conor were to win this rematch against Chris, which way do you boys think he would go? Do you think he'd go for the trilogy and cash out and get some more dough, or do you think he'll do what I think he should do, which is go fight for an IBF world strap?
Well, here it is. I think that
if he gets the opportunity,
I think that after this fight with Chris, it's sort of like done. I don't think we get the trilogy. I think this is the one. They're talking about it being unfinished business. I think we get the answers, win or lose.
How? If Conor goes in and beats him, how have we got the answers?
Yeah, no, we've got the answers because he's going to go and pursue his career. Then he's going to want to go and chase those world title dreams. Like you say, sticking around and wanting to do the trilogy with Chris. I don't think that would be a fight that will happen. I think that Lewis Crocker is probably the route that he will take. But this is a question. Can he make 147 still? He hasn't made 147. People talk about him boxing at 147. He hasn't been there for 3 years.
I think
he's not been around for a long time.
I think there's a few more questions as well. Like, I don't know, especially if he loses. If he loses to Eubank, how's he going to drop back down to 147, get in the top 5 at the IBF? Because I think the IBF are the most stringent of the governing bodies, where you have to be in a top 5, I would say, to get your shot, let's say, and they always call the mandatories as well. But it's no boot tennis. It's Lewis Crocker, with no disrespect to Lewis. He's a lovely lad and he's a good fighter. And it was a great performance when he won the title. And it's a perfect fight for Lewis Crocker. But it's whether Benn can meet the criteria to get that fight. I think Benn should absolutely jump at that chance because it might be the only chance that he may get to come close to being world champion.
I agree. I think that also Conor Benn, if he's going to strip back down to 147, then we're not going to get the same fighter that we're going to see against Chris because he's strong against Chris. You know, he hasn't got to cut any weight. He's going to go in there physically very strong. When you drop back down to 147, which will be tough for him, Lewis Crocker's a tough dude.
Yeah.
You know, he's very strong at the weight. So it'd be an interesting fight, that.
I think he's probably best at 154.
Yeah.
That's kind of wide open.
Probably now, especially after being at 164.
But there was, when he went to 154, there was the seeming lack of power. I mean, people made assumptions based upon the circumstances he found himself in. When he jumped up from 147, came back and fought 154. Power wasn't there, was it?
No, this is my question. Dropping down at 147, you know, if there was lack of power there at 154, what are we going to get at 147?
We will see. We will see. Okay, we're going to break. Okay, let's get into a specific area of expertise for our top guest in Bomac, which is Terence Crawford beats Canelo Alvarez. Paul, I mean, I saw the fight. I was in Spain, got up at 5 o'clock in the morning, got up at 3 o'clock in the morning, waited and eventually got what I wanted to see, which was a top quality fight. And a worthy winner, and the judges' scoring Jesus. I mean, there wasn't even a debate for me. This was 8-9 rounds to Terence Crawford, with maybe the first round tied and 2 or 3 at max to Canelo at max. What did you make of the fight?
I think maximum Canelo got 4 rounds. I was, as I said before, I'm not one of them people who picks someone before the fight and then changes my mind after it. I said I wouldn't be surprised if Crawford did win, but I did back Canelo.
Yep.
I thought it was
we didn't, Bomac.
Yeah,
we didn't.
You didn't. It was an unbelievable fight for boxing purists who are watching for the feints, the traps, the combinations, the counters, everything else. But it wasn't really an electric fight.
It didn't catch a light, did it?
It didn't catch a light, but I think it was the 9th round. Like, watching that little clip, what we're seeing now of the 9th round, it's phenomenal what they were both doing. But I thought Crawford made Canelo look his age. I thought Crawford... Now, I'm not going to say Canelo looked old in there and take away from Crawford, and I'm not just saying it because he's sitting here, but I thought Crawford probably made him look his age. I think he was too sharp, too fast, too quick. He was one step ahead. He was setting up traps and moves early on that were paying dividends later on in the fight. And I just thought he had that aura of confidence and arrogance, which a top champion will have, that you're not beating me in this fight, and it was one winner.
Did you think some of, and we'll get on to the strengths of Terence Crawford, because I think he's absolutely what he is and what we all know him to be, which is an absolute fabulous fighter and, you know, a GOAT. Did you think that, well, I thought that some of the fights that Alvarez has picked recently, and Paulie Malignaggi touched upon it, didn't he? But he was much more vitriolic than I'm about to be. Some of the fights that he picked against William Skell and Edgar Berlanga, that not at the level, weren't helpful for him to go into a fight against someone like Crawford, who is a master of his profession.
Absolutely, but they're probably thinking the way we were all thinking, that just because of the weight he should be okay, because he's the naturally bigger man. But someone like Crawford, obviously, who's done what he's done, you have to be on the top of your game. And I felt with Canelo, it was probably too many single shots that he was throwing, but he wasn't throwing the usual singles and backing it up because he was getting counted.
And he wasn't allowed to.
Yeah, it wasn't just that Canelo was bad, is what I'm trying to get at. Crawford was absolutely sensational on the night, and the deserved winner and one of the best.
Because the other side of the argument would be that they actually thought they might be getting Crawford at the right time because he hadn't fought for a while and had some particular surgery. I mean, did it go, as I said to you at the top of the show, Bomac, I mean, I watched you in the corner and I thought it was a exercise in how a corner should be conducted in terms of the communication, the coherency of it, and the discipline behind who spoke, when they spoke, what they said, and what needed to be heard. Did the fight go exactly as you had mapped out in your mind and what you thought would manifest itself? As much as one can. As much as one can.
It would 100% how we thought it was going to go.
Did it?
It would 100%. Him stepping forward, him throwing the wide shots, him moving his head, you know, him trying to fight on the inside. It went just like how we wanted it to go. That's what performance you guys got from Terence.
Was it easier than you expected? Because, I mean, he made it look easy in there. We were talking upstairs, talking about, like, when you're doing the little pitter-patter shots and then whamming the shots, and that means you're in total control and your comfort zone. Was it easier than you expected?
Let me tell you this, man. So, like, in the corner, going through the fight, you just like, kind of like tensed up a little bit, you know, is he doing this, is he doing that right? You know, but after the fight was over and then you sit back and you watch the fight, yes, it was easy. It was easy. It don't seem like it when you in the corner and you looking, sometimes you can't see the camera guy right here. He might get caught with this shot, the crowd go wild and like, damn. But when you sit back and you go watch it, he did exactly what we thought he was going to do.
I make the point because I think it's such a good point to make, that the coherency and the composure. You talk about the moment where, you know, you're saying that, did we do this and could we done that? And looking back on it, yeah, we did. I felt the level of composure and control in that corner was world level, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
In terms of his work.
We talked about this last week, Hugo, when you got your main guy in the corner and he's firing the instructions and you've got complete silence. We see it so many times now, Paul. You say, like, there's absolute pandemonium going on in the corner with everyone speaking. The fighter needs calm, and that's exactly what we got there.
It's ridiculous, and you see a lot of these new fan signers, and there's 15 voices in the corner. And we spoke before we came down, didn't we, and asked them a question. And it wasn't even really a question, it was a compliment. I said, I love the way, as soon as he gets in the corner, he says, have you got anything to add? And he's with him every day in the gym alongside Bomac. So it's an important voice. And then Red's there also, and he'll get his input in there because they're with him every day in the gym. And it's not just Bomac. And he gives the credit and the praise to the assistants to help out as well. and he gives his advice. It's a calm corner and it's a calm fight, and then standing up for the next round.
Do you have those conversations before, obviously, you get to ringside? Because what I'm saying is, there is always one guy giving the instructions, but when in the heat of the moment, you get all these voices coming in and whatnot. You must have those conversations before. Say, listen, let me speak, let me control this, and I'll bring you in when.
We have those conversations all the time. I run the corner and I run the gym with the coaches just like a football team. You got the defensive coordinator, you got the offensive coordinator, you got the linebackers coach. Same thing that they do, we do. Me and Red, we break the fight down in the corner. Red talked to me about what he's doing more, what the opponent, what the opponent's doing more. Some of the things I need to say when I get up there. Bo, watch out for this. Bo, watch out for that. You know. And while we in the gym, I'll pull back and I'll say, "Can you guys work the corner? I'm gonna score the round and see how you look in the corner, see how you perform it. I'll give you the thumbs up or I'll give you the thumbs down if I think you won that round, you know." And then Saul, Red, or Bernie, they in there talking, they in there giving him instructions. So if the ever time come to one of us is not there or I'm not there myself, everything runs smooth. Everything runs smooth.
Where does your expertise lean? Towards the offense or the defense?
Offense.
Offense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What was
they say? Offense create defense.
Yep. Exactly. The best defense.
It's the best form of defense, isn't it?
Yeah.
Offense is the best form of defense, isn't it?
Yeah.
What was fight week like? I mean, obviously we see a lot of noise and we see a lot of background. Terence is always rather understated in the way he presents himself. So comparisons say something like the build up to the Errol Spence fight. What was fight week like for you over there?
Man, fight week was like just a normal week. It was just a normal week for us to get up in the afternoon, get his run in, check his weight, go eat, lay down, go to the gym later, work out, you know, a little light workout. You bring the workouts down because you don't need that heavy workout stuff no more. And Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the time you get to Thursday, you just shake out, sweat a little bit, and just get ready to weigh in on Friday.
The fight week of that magnitude, though, must be very difficult not to get caught up in all the because, I mean, it was big. It was about as big as you can get, but you do a great job, and Terence does a great job of just keeping away from all the getting caught up in all the hype, which is great for the fighter.
Man, it's nothing new to us, man. We've been here before, so... and then we practice it in the gym too. You know, we get those days of how you kind of mess off a little bit, and I used to do this to them when they was kids. Hey Terence, hey man, what you think about this? Hey Red, what you think about that? Asking questions, just get ready for the media, get ready for everybody running up on you, asking for a whole bunch of tickets, asking for this, asking for that. You know, we practiced that stuff years ago until when we at that point now to where it's just like, okay, it's just another day to us. You know, I love the hurrah part about the fight, but
this is what we talk about when we say the importance of having someone in the corner that's actually done it before. Because like Paul was saying earlier in the show, you know, and it's no disrespect to trainers that haven't boxed before, but when you've done it, you know what it is, and it's all about preparation. You're doing that not just with the physical side of things, but the whole package.
Exactly, man. You know, not just only trainers. To me, trainers just train the box. Just we inside the gym. You have to train everything. Outside the ring, inside the ring, outside in life is general. You know what I'm saying? So that's important to me too. You know.
What does Terence do next? Where does he go next? Have you spoken to him since the fight?
We had a few words. Right at the fight, I came over here, so I'll see him in a couple of days. And, you know, Terence liked to chill and spend time with his family and, you know, take some trips here and there. And then he'll get back in the gym. We'll talk about it.
Middleweight?
We'll talk about it.
Tell us a little bit about your relationship with Terence, because obviously, you know, you guys grew up in the same area, in the same street, the relatability of it. Give us a little bit of insight in the dynamics of the relationship, how it works between you two.
Man, me and Terence got a beautiful relationship. You know, he could be, one day be my son, next day could be my nephew. We got the gym together, so we could be business partners. But we got one common goal, is to win. Always to win. When it comes to that boxing gym, it's for the kids. You know, kids have a safe haven place to be outside in the neighborhood.
Sorry to interrupt you, but you told me before as well, which would be good for everyone to see. You started training Terence while you were still fighting yourself.
Oh yeah. When Terence I think he started when he was 7. I was still in the gym, and he walked in the gym and with some other kids, and the trainer Midge was like, "Hey man, stay around and help the kids." I ain't got nothing else to do but go out and mess around in the street. So that's what led me to being one of Terence's trainers.
With the success that Terence has had, what effect has that had on the area, around the area, you know, with the kids, etc.? I mean, that must be such an inspiration for them.
It's beautiful, man. It's beautiful for the gym. It's beautiful for the community. It gives the kids in the community some hope that if he can do it, I could do it too. You know, Terence still stays close by the gym. I stay close by the gym. And, you know, the gym is definitely in the ghetto. So, you know,
Has it got busier? Has it got busier off the back of Terence?
Oh, yeah. The gym is always fat. We can probably average between 75 to 80 kids in there a day. You know, we also have a wrestling side, too, so that plays a big part, too.
You can tell Terence does that. But also what I was going to say about that is also if kids in that area who are just like Terence, seeing Terence doing it, if he can do it, I can do it.
Exactly.
And that's why they'll come in the gym even more.
Can I ask you about the level of respect and credit and recognition that he gets? I mean, I was sort of touched by some of the commentary, or should I say irritated by some of the commentary that was suggesting that this was a legacy fight. This is a two-weight, undisputed world champion that seemed to be having his legacy defined by this fight. And then you have an American commentator that goes straight in rather than says, you know, how wonderful the achievement is. Is this your last fight? You know, which really annoyed me with Max Kellerman going in and making that the stop part of his questions. Do you think, Bomac, that he gets the recognition and the appreciation that his achievements merit?
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Why do you think that is?
I think because of the simple fact that Terence is his own man. You know, he knows the path that he wants to go. And some of the boxing critics or some of the boxing people around boxing figure he should go this route or he should go that route. When he didn't go that route and he went this route, he's ducking the other middleweights. I mean, the other welterweights, so he's ducking the 140-pounder. No, he's not ducking them. He's just not available. Well, he should have went this way. I didn't want to go that way. I wanted to go this way because that's the way I wanted to go. So he got a lot of criticism for that. And when he got criticism, they criticized him for not fighting this person or that person because he on this side of the street or they on that side of the street. So
surely he must have silenced them now, though, with jumping up weight divisions and beating Canelo Alvarez, who's been dominant for the last 7 years.
I thought he silenced them with the Spence fight.
Yeah, I'm with you, mate.
He
totally
made
agree with you.
Easy for me.
That was one of the best performances I've seen witnessed in a boxing ring, for sure. You look at that and you go, off the back of that performance, he beats or lives with any welterweight in any era.
And part of my reason why I didn't think he'd rise to it again for Canelo was I thought every fighter has that special night, and I thought Spence was his special night. He might not get better than that, and he did. He's even better.
And also, there was a lot of talk after the fight, as we always get, that Canelo was maybe, you know, like he was shown there, he's on the slide, he's past his best. But let's look at the brilliance from Terence Crawford and what he took away from Canelo. People talking about Canelo not jabbing in that fight. That's because Terence never allowed him. Out of the southpaw stance, as an orthodox, you throw that jab, you're putting yourself in a vulnerable position. And that's down to the brilliance of Terence as opposed to how bad Canelo was.
Yeah.
I think that's what you need to look at.
Canelo was brilliant at closing distance. Bomac mentioned it before, the little step. He steps in, he moves the head movement before, you know, he's in range. And it was nullified in that fight by Terence.
Well, we talked about it, myself and Simon on this show. We're saying, like, it's about who can control that space. Yeah. Terence is great at that. You know, you don't have to run around or whatever, but he chose to sit in the pocket when he wanted to sit in the pocket. Yeah. He chose to go for a walk when he wanted to go for a walk. And Canelo couldn't deal with that. He said it himself after the fight, look, I couldn't work it out. Yeah. And that was what it was. I think that, you know, you got to look at the technical side of things. That was brilliance in that.
Boxing IQ.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Boxing IQ. Beautiful.
Do you think, last question on the recognition of him, do you think he's got the profile in the States of the achievements that he's done? You know, a 3-weight, undisputed champion. Do you think it's likely that, because his personality isn't flash and brash and it's not full of, you know, braggadocio? I mean, I thought he was quite robust in the press conference afterwards when he had a few goes at a few people about some of the things that have been said about him, some of the opportunities that he felt he'd been held back from. Do you think it's a case of when he finishes, and which we hope won't be any time soon, that the profile that he should have had whilst fighting will likely find itself in recognition of what he achieved, because what he's achieved is phenomenal, right?
Right. I'm sure Terence probably can care less what people say about him, but one thing he did, he said that really stuck with me, and it's going to stick with y'all too.
Yeah.
They're going to miss me when I'm gone.
It was an interesting broadcasting platform that this was put on. And obviously we've had discussions with Turki Al-Sheikh about being a disruptor, dropping it on DAZN, dropping it on Netflix. What was interesting about this fight, somewhat like the Beterbiev Bivol fight, that to some people it was for the purists to some extent because of the skill of the protagonists. We saw Netflix figures come out that were 125 million for Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson, your mate, the fight that you validated, right? And then we saw 74 million or 60 million for Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano. Right?
He knocks you for getting a trip over to America to watch Mike Tyson, see him doing that ring walk again. Do you know what I mean?
But we got 41 million for this fight.
Yeah.
Is there anything we can read into those figures?
No, I don't think so. 41 million is a phenomenal number.
It is.
I think that, look, Jake Paul comes with his own audience, doesn't he? So you're going to get massive numbers.
Best part of 100 million digital
Mike Tyson is Mike Tyson. You know, I think with Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor, who done what they do, like 75 or something.
But that was off the back of
absolutely. That's where I was going to go. But 41 million to see that. Look, it's a way of the future. I was speaking to you, Bomac, upstairs about this one. I was saying, look, what did you think about Netflix? Do you think it's good for the game, and especially for American boxing? It seems to have fallen off. I mean, Netflix is good for the sport, right?
I believe it is. I believe that's a beautiful thing, because the fact that it's all over the world.
Yeah.
Any little small thing Netflix could pick will put out from UK to Dubai to the Philippines. They're all going to pick it up.
310 million viewers.
What do you think? What do you think about Netflix coming into the sport? You think it's a good thing?
I think the more places that this sport can be shown. I mean, Netflix is about entertainment, which is why, to some extent, you see the Disneyfication of it with Jake Paul and Mike Tyson and some of that stuff. I mean, if you're a boxing fan, I don't care where I can see it as long as I can see it. And if it grows the sport, if you've got 310 million people, I mean, the commercial deal, who knows what was done there? Turkey has still bankrolled the two fighters. I don't think he's taken any commercial money out of Netflix. I think he's doing it because he's playing with the broadcasters and seeing how much disruption he can create, where he wants to put it himself, because he's in the business of creating the best outcomes for the agenda that he has. But I don't think there's any disadvantage in it.
No, I think it captures a different audience, and I think that with American boxing at the moment, Bomac, it's needed right now. Something like that to capture that younger generation, which is where Netflix sits.
It definitely needed. America definitely needed, because ESPN gone, HBO gone, Showtime gone. Where can I watch boxing at for free? You know?
Where is boxing in America right now? Like, what, you know, like I said to you, that they were so dominant. You go back into the 80s and the 90s, you know, heavyweight division was dominated by Americans. Right. Yeah, you struggled to get in the top 10 even. You know, it was like that. But they've just fallen off now in recent times. Why is that? And will it come back?
Is it other sports, Bomac? Other sports?
I believe it's the other sports, the NFL, the NBA. You know, you got.
But you had them back in the day, though, right?
Yeah, but it's different now. You know, there's more money.
Right, exactly.
You can give a basketball player $250 million for a 4-year deal. That's almost $50 million a year.
He's not getting punched in the face for it.
If a boxer had to work his whole you just to make $1 million, if you got the right person behind you.
Are you optimistic for American boxing? Because for so long it used to be the capital of boxing. Whenever I used to go away, and when I came to watch Lennox fight Hasim Rahman in Los Angeles, when I saw him fight Evander Holyfield in Madison Square Garden, and in Las Vegas, it was the mecca, the best fighters, all the show and pomp and style came out of America. Are you optimistic for your side of the pond to start getting itself back into commission? Obviously, Terence is American, so I know that we're talking about a great fighter there. But in the other divisions, there seems to be a little bit of a dearth of top-end American fighters.
I tell you what, the American fighters, you listen to me, you got to be able to want to fight any and everybody in your weight class, or you got to be able to want to take chances in order for you to get that respect in America.
I mean, you look at even the amateur scene in America, they were so dominant in the Olympics, they would pick up like 9 gold medals at a time or whatnot. They don't figure in that no more. Like, how's the state of amateur boxing in America? compared to what it was, and can they come back from that? How do they change that?
Well, you know, I haven't been around amateur boxing in a couple of years, so I do see the guys that's come around the gym.
But you hear the names coming through and whatnot.
Yeah, you hear them, and you hear them coming from the Olympics to the pros, but I think they could do better. I think the amateur boxing level, what they call the USA boxing, could do better.
I think they should do better now that it's 3 minutes with no head guards on as well, because it's more suited to the pros. It's more similar to the pros. It's not computer scored anymore, where you have to be a top amateur, then you have to adapt to be a good professional. I think now that the transition is more seamless, that we should see the good Americans coming through at the amateur ranks who can box like pros, because they're in the gyms with pros in 3 minute rounds with no headgear on in the amateurs, and it's easier to score. It's actually 10-point system now rather than computer scoring.
I want to bring up, just before we close the show, Dana White and his introduction into the sport. And I want to read you a quote. Obviously, we've seen Dana last week talking about maybe changing certain aspects of the Muhammad Ali Act, which I think will probably not fall on people's ears perhaps the way they'd want it to, because unless it's going to be equitable for the fighters, and most of the time when someone commercially changes something, it's for their benefit. So let's have a listen to, I want to read you something that Dana said last week and get your direct reaction to it, Paul. He was talking about what we did with the UFC is turn the UFC into an NFL, an NBA. There's a league, you reinvest into the sport, and other people want to invest in the sport, whether it's sponsors or any of these financial firms, whatever it may be. That's what needs to be done with boxing too, and that's what I'm going to attempt to do. When you hear that from Dana, I'll ask Bomac in a second what he thinks of it. When you hear that from Dana White, does that fill you with optimism, encouragement, or do you think, commercial angle, look what they've done with the UFC, look how the fighters were paid and that, look at the compensation claims that have been made against them, full stop. Are you optimistic or concerned?
I'm neither, but I'm not really optimistic, because the UFC is an unbelievable model. It's an unbelievable business. It's an unbelievable company. What he's did with that, he hats off to him, full respect to him. From the ground up. But you can't do that in boxing. Boxing's far more advanced and far more further down the road. It's already established. No promoter, in my opinion, is going to come in, create their own small league, let's say, where the fans all want to watch that. Any other fighter could just go and have a big fight in a big stadium somewhere else and get 70 million views, as I say, if they're not part of the league. I don't think he will be able to have that type of monopoly on boxing that he did in the UFC, in the MMA with UFC. Just like I saw the interview with Eddie Hearn, I don't think any promoter could go into MMA now and recreate what he's done with the UFC.
Do you? I mean, have you paid attention to Dana White, Bomac, and listened to what he's saying? I mean, insofar as replicating some of the success of the UFC into the boxing world, creating a league, him and Turki Al-Sheikh working together with TKO, the Muhammad Ali, all this noise coming out from Dana.
Yeah, I mean, I'm around it every day. You know, the guys over there, I know them all. You know, but like I told one guy, them fighters, man, they look to become world champions, a WBC world champion, the Ring Magazine world champion. And if Dana White wants to come in boxing and try to take that away, that's going to be awfully hard. Yeah. Because, man, I want to be an undisputed.
Write some big checks if you're going to have to.
I want to be an undisputed. Yeah. I can't be undisputed if you take that away from me. Because when you're undisputed, that means you're the man. You're the man. So good luck to him.
There's a lot of history there for sure. And to take that, you know, we're talking about the Muhammad Ali Act and all that, and stripping those belts away, all that history. I think you killed the sport, if I'm totally honest. You know, talking about setting up your own rules, regulations, your own governing bodies.
Bomac just hit the nail on the head. You want to be the champion of the world. You want to be the undisputed champion of the world, not the champion of an organisation.
What do you think the fans will think of it, though? I mean, ultimately, we've seen so many controversies about who doesn't get to fight who and who hasn't got to fight when, right? And people have been able to avoid people left, right and centre. We've had Terence Crawford talking about the opportunities that weren't given him or afforded him in certain circumstances. We've seen, in a lesser degree, Dillian Whyte sitting in the background forever trying to get a shot against Tyson Fury. We've seen champions in recess with the WBC. We see some of the WBC come out giving people excuses left, right and centre. Wouldn't this be a bit fan-friendly, though?
It would, but look, I look at the UFC. You might not get a champion at UFC that will be a champion for long, because you fight the best in the division every time. And in boxing and the governing bodies, you will have mandatory challenges, but you will have a voluntary where you can have a bit of a softer touch as such. And the fans might not like that, but for fighters to progress in their careers, they're essential. You can't be fighting the number one challenger every single time for the belt, otherwise you won't have the belt for long. And then if you haven't got the belt for long, how do you build champions as a promoter? How do you have, you know, sort of stalwarts of your company that people can come and watch and support and commercial opportunities? If the champion is always sort of chopping and changing because the best are fighting the best all the time. Now, I agree, the best fighting the best are the best fights, but it's not a sustainable model in my opinion.
Talking about commercial sustainability, just to finish the show for this one, Turkey Yellow Sheikh's talked about pay-per-view, and it's a bit of a red herring in terms of what he thinks pay-per-view is going to become in terms of abolishing it. Do you think pay-per-view will be around in 10 years, Paul?
I think with streaming, I think we've just been speaking about Netflix. Now, I have Netflix, I'm sure everyone probably have Netflix. You have it. If you're then getting a top-class fight on Netflix on a subscription that you're already paying, which is a good subscription because you see things and programs that you want to watch, then that's win-win. If you try and price it, like in the States, it's $75 or something for the pay-per-view.
More, isn't it?
More, maybe. More. Like, it's quite expensive, whereas if things are affordable, they won't go and watch it on an illegal stream, or they won't go and try and watch it on one of the dodgy boxes, which nearly everyone in the country has. So therefore, you make it affordable for the viewer. They will buy it, but they'll pay for it without realising they're actually paying for it because they already have that subscription on Netflix. I think the Netflix idea is an unbelievable idea. I think it's a brilliant business.
It's a bit of a red herring though, isn't it? Because Turkey was talking about the pay-per-view being taken away, but what he's going to do is he's going to build a subscription model, which is basically a premium, less of a premium. So if you pay $20 a month for your Netflix or 10 quid a month that we pay over here, you want the boxing framework, so you don't pay for pay-per-view. You might end up paying 25 quid a month. So you'll end up in slightly the same position. But it won't look like you're paying pay-per-view.
You've still got your pay-per-view model, for sure.
Absolutely.
I think it sticks around. I think
it's all food for thought, isn't it?
Listen, I think the pay-per-view model's been around long enough now for people to accept, and like Paul says, if you have that affordability and it's priced in the right bracket, then it works.
What you want is post Turkey Yellow Sheikh's involvement in sport, you want the sport to continue to progress, to evolve. You want the fighters to keep on getting rewarded because ultimately it's the fighters that should get the bulk of the money, not the promoters and not the broadcasters. That's what you want.
They said it with music, didn't they, when downloading started, that's the end of the music industry, and they just learned how to adapt with it. And all of a sudden now you've got Apple Music, you've got Spotify, it evolves. There will be a way of doing it with the boxing where good top fights will be able to be staged, but the fighters receive the benefit from it.
Perfect. Right, that's it for episode 139 of Talk Boxing. Thanks Spencer, thanks Paul, and of course, thanks Bomac. And do come back after you've won your fight against Conor Benn.
I definitely will.
Good man. And we'll see you guys next time we're out.